I did paint my face again, but not with actual paint, but with makeup this time, so I can look decent. Don't mind me as I eat my guac. I'm starving. I can't remember if I ate lunch or not. I know I came back here because I changed. But I don't remember if I ate or not.
Anyway, welcome back to my channel.
Hi.
Today we're talking about death and dying and our thoughts on life.
Yeah. We were talking about this, I think, yesterday.
Yesterday, we talked about it a couple of times since we moved in, I think.
Yeah.
But
it was...
the concept of death when you're 22 is a lot.
Yeah.
Emma and I both have Christian backgrounds, so we kind of have some predetermined notions, preconceived notions about what happens after you die.
Yeah. What did your parents tell you when you were little or when you were younger, like what happens when you die? Like, how was that given to you?
I don't think it was addressed until I was in like 7th grade when I was hit with my first bout of existential dread.
Yeah, that's about right.
And even then it was never really addressed, and my mom was talking to me and she was like, I'm not afraid to die. And I was like, yeah, I'm not afraid. Well, I was like, yeah, but I am afraid of you dying and afraid of me dying and afraid of us all dying. And I just remember sitting there being like, I was remembering math class very vividly, 6th period, it was like 1:13, and I was like,
specifically that time?
I looked at the clock and I go, what is the point of all of this if we're all gonna die? And I was like, I'm 13 years old at this point. Rest in piss. Yeah. How was it addressed for you?
Yeah.
Was it addressed for you?
In a way. Like...
unlike your anxiety.
Unlike mine. That's a whole other story that we can talk about another day. But I remember when I was 4 years old, like my mom's side of the family, huge family.
Yeah.
Huge. But... and so there, I was accustomed to death really early.
Mm-hmm.
And again, coming from a Christian background, it was most like the talk. My sister and I were sat down, and I just remember Mom talking about how, like, when you die, you go with God. Like, we believe in God. And I'm like, yeah, I believe in God. And she's like, well, they go up with them, and we'll see them again. You know, like basic Christian type of thing. But I remember also being 4 and getting with an existential crisis early, looking back on it.
At 4?
At 4. Thinking of like the idea, and she mentioned eternity, like you'll be with them forever.
That's a long time.
Yeah, and I have the same, I see it clearly in my head that there's a tunnel, and I'm there. And I look up at the sky, I'm in heaven at this point, and I'm just imagining the same thing every single day. And for one, that scares me, doing the same thing every day here on earth.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what it's gonna be like in heaven. So I'm sitting there in church and I'm like convicted of death. It's just always been there. And since my senior year of high school, there's just been a lot of deaths in my family that none of us have been ready for, and that idea scares me. And then I know my old pastor's wife is now diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer, and she decided to stop treatments. And
bold.
Yeah. And they didn't announce this until after they all came back from a family vacation. Like, their entire extended family went down on a vacation, and then they announced it once they got back.
That's really sad. I'm going to adjust this.
Yeah.
Because you're, like, not in the frame. We love continuity.
We love it. It's great.
But now we're over here so that Emma's not, like, in the...
But anyway... I found that out. But I was on vacation with my family this past July, June, whatever, June. And we're starting a new way. It's a cycle. It's a new beginning for my sister. So she's starting grad school. And then I was also reading this book. It's probably the best book I've ever read.
When breath becomes air.
When breath becomes air. And I was so determined to finish this on this trip. And then I didn't know it was about death until I read the back cover. And like what his wife wrote after he died is like, in memory of him, he died of like stage 4 lung cancer. And I'm thinking, I was not ready for this. And so I knew halfway through the book that he was going to die. And I just wasn't prepared for it. And on the plane ride home, I'm sitting there with like this light shining down on me because it was pitch black outside. Yeah. And I'm the only one in my row. And I'm sitting there with the light on, bawling my eyes out as I read the epilogue of what his wife Lucy wrote about him about in the final days and what happened afterwards. And the lady was coming down like asking for water and food if anybody wanted any. I look at my dad, I'm like, no. And then he turned to the flight attendant. He's like, she's good. She's good.
Flight attendant's like, is she
okay? No. But, and then I've just been on this cycle, and then I've been listening to a lot of podcasts about the idea of death and going to a Christian college where that's brought up a lot, and then there's just a lot of views on it.
I went to public school. You don't die at public school. You go to the bar at public school.
You don't die?
Nope. All of us are invincible.
What's in the beer? Is it
nothing? We just don't think we're gonna die. I was not one of those people that was that lucky to not contemplate my own mortality pretty often.
Yeah. Also doesn't help being a theater major and your sister discipline is philosophy.
Yeah.
And psychology.
Yeah.
So it doesn't help that I'm dealing with a lot of emotions on a daily basis.
I just have a lot of feelings.
You just gotta suppress them. That's what I used to do.
I don't have the ability to suppress or compartmentalize. If there is a feeling, there's a feeling. There is no choice. I don't know. I feel like I thought about a lot about death for someone who had never experienced it firsthand. Like, not me dying, but like someone in my family dying, or I guess my dog died when I was at 14. But a dog and a person are very different. I don't know why that is. You're still gonna be upset, but I feel like...
Oh, I was sitting, when I thought that Mary was dying, I was sitting in that laundry room with her, like, slowly, shallowly breathing. I bawled at 3 a.m. with her, just sitting there for 30 minutes.
I mean, I'm not saying that your pets aren't heartbreaking to lose, but, like, my dog versus my grandma dying is a very different experience. And did anybody in your, that was your age or that you had contact with, like, die that was your age?
Oh. Yeah.
I feel like there was a string when I was in college of a couple of people that I had gone to high school with who all just died randomly, and I was like, oh. And that's when I started contemplating it, and I was like, I am, in general, okay with the concept of it. Like, I die, and then I go to heaven and get to spend eternity with God, but then I get to the part where I'm like, I will never be here ever again once I die. That is it. I will never, well, not that I won't ever see anybody again.
Yeah.
No one will ever see me here again. I will never be here. My life and whatever I've done in it will be gone. None of this will matter.
We're only a small piece of the greater existence of humanity.
Yes.
That's what we are.
And I think that's the most daunting part, because when you come out of whatever it is, everybody's like, oh, well, you have to do all of these things and you have to be successful and you want to have a memory and a legacy, and I'm like,
I that's a lot of pressure.
That, and then that's when I start to feel guilty when I spend like a day just kind of relaxing. I'm like, but what about all the things that I should be doing, because my time here is limited and I could literally die tomorrow.
Me every single day of every single hour.
And I think the other thing is, I'm not scared of dying. I am scared of leaving all of my people behind. I'm scared of like the emotional impact that will be left from me dying, hopefully not soon, but that's not up to me.
That's sort of what Tim talked about at church on Sunday.
Yeah, I think that's why I started crying at church, because I was like, me too.
Yeah.
But
we were in, it was Psalms 46, I think.
46, 1 through 10?
Yeah. It was just about our fears and the gospel singing and these choir of young girls singing, specifically young girls.
Young girls.
Young girls. And it's talking about how God has everything, take refuge in him.
Yeah.
And Tim wrote down his own fears, and his last fear was to leave his wife behind or to have his wife die before him. Because he didn't want to leave her alone, or she didn't want to leave him alone.
And he didn't want to be left without her. And
Yeah.
very sad.
And he was getting teary-eyed.
I know, and then I was like, nope, this is it. I'm done. But
I looked over at you and offered you a craisin, but you were crying.
I was busy. Psalm 146:10 is Jared's post whatever verse.
Really?
Or pre whatever. I don't like calling it what it is, but whatever. His whatever happened, and that was either before or after, but that's his one. He like leaned over to me during church and was like, hey, that's mine. And I was like, I know.
So it adds a whole other level
I know.
to you.
But I think it's hard to sometimes wrap your mind around the idea that like God is this good all-powerful entity, and then he like kills young people. Not that he kills them, but the circumstances where they die. But then you're like, there has to be something there that why that happened.
Yeah. Due to the fact that Adam and Eve caused the first sin, and we are the children of God, which has stemmed from it. All the sins that happened, everything that is created isn't because of God. It's because of what we did.
Yeah. That's fair. I guess that was a better way to put it than the way that I put it. Because I guess it's not necessarily he was just like, meh, I feel like killing people today. It's all in a plan, and
God never intended it to happen, but once sin was first created,
Satan came down and started doing the do. I have this weird thing where if I get in a fight with someone, I have to make sure it is resolved as quickly as possible, especially before going to bed, because I'm afraid that something will happen and one of us will die, and then we will never get to have that conflict resolved. I get scared about that a lot. Like Jared and I were not having an argument, we were having a discussion about the newfound closeness of our relationship, meaning we are physically closer together because I'm not living in Bloomington. I live about 20 minutes south of where he lives.
it's been good for them.
I think it's been good. We're working through some things because it's just different. But
Yeah.
I like was starting to fall asleep, and I texted him. I was like, I don't know where we are right now. I think we're good, but I just wanted to let you know that I'm not mad at you. I know you're not mad at me. I love you. And I don't want to go fall asleep before I tell you that, because I don't want either of us to die. Is that my 9 showing?
Yeah. Just a little bit.
Emma's a 7 on the Enneagram, and I am a 9.
Yeah.
So, but after our conversation about death and dying last night, we decided to come here and spew it onto the internet.
Therapy.
Like therapy.
But with friends.
So, if you have a weird relationship with death, it's okay. I think everyone does.
If God has created a certain life for us,
Yeah.
and we as sinners do something that we may ultimately regret, is that God's plan for us for that time? Or would have there still been more that God had planned for us if
Yeah, I
a certain event?
that. Because that's the whole free will thing.
Yeah.
You have free will, but God knows what you're going to do. And I'm like, but then...
Yeah, I can't even think about that.
But then how? Free will, but also...
Or just spit. I can't win.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think about that question maybe once a week.
About, like, dying or being...
Free will.
Free will.
I think about free will at least once a week. I feel that.
I don't know what else to say about death and dying. It's been like 20 minutes.
Oh my gosh, it's been 20 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell us what we should talk about next.
Bye.
Bye.